Before July of 2024, I was living somewhat of a normal life. I just graduated high school, coincidentally, 2 months before everything happened. It was kind of like the final, like big thing that happened before that. Before that, I went to Disney. I'm a huge like Star Wars fan and everything, so that was amazing. But needless to say, I was living a pretty normal life. It wasn't like I had the most adventurous life and was doing like all these crazy things, but it was normal. By all means, it was normal. It wasn't like I was, very ill and sickly. It was going normal. In a way, I feel like I was kind of just like marching to the beat of my own drum. Like there wasn't anything specific that I was doing, but there wasn't anything specific that I wasn't doing or wasn't trying to do. You know, I was kind of at a point in my life to where like I was living, but I wasn't really living. If that makes sense. I was alive, but spiritually and like emotionally and things like man, I wasn't. I was far from being like alive. It was kind of like I was just living just to see what the next day might bring in hopes that it could get better. I wouldn't say like that I was like severely depressed, like not able to get out of bed. Because I worked, I lived somewhat of a normal life, but like, it wasn't like to where things are now. Like, I didn't have a reason, I was just kind of going on to see if things would get better, I guess. I didn't have a purpose. I wasn't living for a purpose, and I didn't see a future either necessarily. I think it's important to make the distinction that like even though I didn't see a future, it wasn't like I was planning to go anywhere. Because like more often than not, when people say that, they're in the lowest of the lows, and they're planning on if you catch my drift, you know what I mean. I don't think that was necessarily the case. But, I can tell you one thing looking back on that version of myself. I viewed life a lot differently. I took it for granted, I thought that there would always be another tomorrow, There's not going to be any danger to where, I might not wake up tomorrow. I didn't look at it that way. It was like, I'm going to wake up. I have it tomorrow. That was more so the way I was looking at it. I wasn't... I don't know the best way to describe it, man. It's a weird situation to be in, and unless you lived it, it's kind of like... I don't know. I feel like the best way I can describe my situation was like I was like stuck on a level in a video game, if that makes sense. Like I had to defeat that one final boss to go to the next game. Well, I guess that wouldn't be the final boss, but you get what I'm saying. To go to the next level, rather. The boss to go to the next level. And that boss was myself, and like every time you would cross that path and find that boss, they would throw you different obstacles each time. It was kind of just the way things were. I don't know, it's probably going to sound confusing to you guys, but I wasn't living like I should have. We'll say it. I remember this. This I do remember. It was Thursday, July 11th, and I was at my grandparents' house, and it was almost like someone just like flipped a switch in me. One moment I was fine. I'm eating fried chicken, no joke. It was Kroger fried chicken, which I absolutely love. Loved it then, still do to this day. I don't eat it because it's not good, but not good for your body. But I loved it. I love it. I was eating fried chicken. One moment I'm fine. I'm able to eat. The next minute, it's like someone just flipped the switch. Like I said, my throat starts hurting and I couldn't eat anymore. I remember telling my grandma, I'm like, I got to put this in the fridge and take it home. I can't eat this. I don't feel well. And we talked about it after that. Like, do you remember that? And I think it's happened recently where we talked about it. And it really did happen pretty fast that I got sick. The next day and the next few days, it just got worse and worse and worse. I wish I could go back to those moments from the first couple of days and try to prepare everybody for what was about to come, but that's not how it works. You know, that's just not how it works. I think Friday I might have tried to go to work, and either I wasn't able to work a full shift, I barely did, or I couldn't even get out of the car to go to work. It was along those lines of like I tried to and wasn't able to, or was barely able to, or whatever. I tried to. I tried to go on the next day and treat it as a cold, but that might have been my first mistake. The next few days were pretty much a blur, you know. I kind of just treated it like a cold from Thursday to Monday. Monday, I went to the doctor because I was supposed to go to Monday Night Raw, WWE's Monday Night Raw, and I was absolutely, like I mentioned, I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I was thrilled to go. I'd never seen it before, and my cousin and I had booked tickets in advance, months in advance. I'm talking like maybe February, and we were supposed to go in July. And I was so excited to go, and you know, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for it. Yeah, that's kind of sad looking back. I remember texting him that morning being like, hey, you know, I really don't feel well. I think I'm going to not be able to go tonight. And I go back to bed. I don't remember much of that morning. I remember being very sad, and I went back to bed because I wasn't going to be able to go. Yeah, that kind of makes me upset talking about it. But what are you going to do about it, you know? Like I said, the morning was a blur. I remember like kind of dozing on and off, waking up at the doctor's office. Apparently I wasn't doing well. My mom took me, and I guess the doctor walks in or something, and I'm laying on the table and not really doing much, talking much, and she kind of made the call that day to send me to the ER. She's like, he needs to go. And you know, shout out to that doctor, man. If for some reason she finds us and is watching this, you know, that played a huge part in saving my life. I think had I not been sent that day, we would have never known how serious it was, and I probably wouldn't have made it past that Wednesday or whatever when I went into the hospital. But you know, I would go to the ER. And I'm like half awake going in there, to the point to where they ask my parents, they're like, "Is he nonverbal?" Dude, I talk freaking nonstop. I'm definitely not nonverbal. But they do these X-rays, right? And it comes back, I got pneumonia, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, pneumonia, whatever. I don't know if my mom or dad really thought it was too bad or could be too bad. I wish I could tell you, though, in that moment, one of us did at least realize how bad it was, but I know I can't tell you that I realized how bad it was. I never really realized how deadly pneumonia can be if you don't get it treated and it doesn't get under control. I wish I could tell you I knew, but I didn't. I thought it just went away. The next day, I could barely get out of bed, and I slept most of the day. My body hurt, and it was just... Tuesday was a bad day. Hey guys, it's Logan from Life After ECMO. I hope that you guys are doing well, and thank you for tuning in to this episode wherever you are. Thank you for tuning into it. Before we get back into today's episode, I do want to mention our brief sponsors. And by sponsor, I mean our t-shirt and merchandise line, Life After ECMO. If you guys are looking for a good way to support the podcast and our mission and what we're all about, Life After ECMO's merchandise line is for you. 50% of each sale will go to your choice of 2 charities, and you can also split it up 25 and 25. The first charity option is ELSO, Extracorporeal Life Support Organization, which is an organization that is responsible for ECMO data. Basically, they maintain a database of people that go on ECMO each year, people that come off ECMO, things of that nature. They also are responsible for training healthcare workers and providing accurate training so that people can get certified to be ECMO specialists, as well as quite a few other amazing things. They're an amazing organization. They'll be linked below every podcast if you'd like to check them out. The second option is our homeless outreach program called Project Hope on the Go. I've always had a passion for helping the homeless people, and so this is a great way that we're going to be able to do it. We're going to make Hope on the Go bags where we have toiletries and other not so expensive options that are in there, but are something that can just help someone get through their day and things like that. Obviously, we don't want to go put a whole bunch of cash, so it's going to be like, toothbrush, toothpaste, toilet paper, things of that nature, as well as, like some non-perishable food items and things that will last a long time. The other 50% goes to helping keep the podcast up, so we're talking editing software, licenses to get songs and things on here, and things of that nature. Eventually, I would like to have a better system to record and everything, so 50% goes towards that, as well as maintaining the other, expenses that come up with the podcast. Travel, like I mentioned, editing software, and things of that nature. So if you guys would like to support the podcast, this is an amazing way. And our forms are going to be below. If you would like a shirt, you can go check out the Facebook page if you'd like to see some of the designs. If you would buy a shirt and, you want a certain design or something, you're always able to DM us. But, let's get back into the podcast. I woke up that day, obviously, but just barely. I was so sick. I couldn't even stand up, I have never been as sick as I was that day in my entire life, and knocking on the fake wood of my desk, I pray that I never am. I mean, it was, it was horrible, absolutely horrible. I felt like my body was shutting down, and looking back on it now, it definitely was shutting down. The light hurt everything. I mean, I remember walking down to the basement, turning on the light, and just like sitting there feeling like the world was like spinning, and obviously it's spinning, but you know what I mean, feeling like the room was spinning. And it felt like a freaking vampire, like, in the movies where you see like the vampire like gets in the sunlight and he's like like, oh, this is sunlight's gonna kill me. But like, that's honestly what it felt like my whole body ached from every little thing that I was trying to do. And then things got a little normal, I guess. It was kind of weird. Feeling better than I had in weeks, and it hit me just like bad as fast as like that one day that I felt bad. It just felt better. And looking back on it, it was definitely terminal lucidity. Boy, did that happen. I ate, I laughed. I remember sitting there and feel like, man, I think I'm turning the corner. This might be one of the better days. Boy, was I wrong. I remember laughing, sitting there for a minute. I think I talked about going to work or trying to the next day, maybe swimming or something. And then I got in the shower to take a shower, obviously. My memory gets kind of fuzzy, but I guess I fell in the shower. That wasn't fun. When it kind of came to it, I got out of the shower, went upstairs and I sat down on the couch. And they prescribed a prescription that day, the doctor had, and my dad went to get it. And my mom Thank God for my mom, not just that day, but every day, you know. She took my O2. It was 85. An O2 of 85. The O2 level was 85. I think to this day, that's one of the things that I still, I can't believe it, I guess. You know, it stayed at 85. Just sat there, waiting for something to happen. My mom called my dad and was like, hey, you know, he's got to go. He's got to go to the hospital. And I remember getting to the hospital, and I guess I must have been fading fast because, man, they took me back immediately. They took me back to a normal ER room, and then within instance, before anybody, I think it was probably about the time my dad went to park the car that they took me back. And then right as he was coming in, they were taking me to this big trauma bay. And I'm not kidding you, about 15 different doctors, nurses, and respiratory therapists, pharmacists, they're all in there. And it was like, you know, you see one of those like untold stories that ER shows or something like that. Like that was like that level of like, it was insane. It was insane. And they told me I was in septic shock, which I wish I could tell you I knew what it was and how dangerous it was, but I was too out of it. So the next few hours were probably pretty much a blur. Yeah, I assume they were probably just trying to keep me alive most of the time was probably the main thing. And trying to keep me stable enough to move to the ICU. And I remember before they moved me up to the ICU, I received last rites from my priest, which they call it last rites for a reason, man. And then once I was pushed through the door of the ICU, my memory fades, you know, and it kind of gets all, the days start blending into the next day, and next thing you know, they got these big oxygen masks on you, you feel like a Darth Vader, you know, with this practically a helmet on you to keep you breathing. I mean, it was like, and it's the stuff you see out of movies. I said it before, but I'll say it again. You don't ever expect that to happen, you know, to you. You just don't. It's not something that you expect to happen to you. So I ended up spending 4 of the first 12 days in a pediatric hospital, since I was still like technically 18, whatever, and all of my doctors were there. It was fine, you know. They kept me there for 4 days trying to get me better. After June 17th, it was just filled with so much uncertainty, doubts. You know, it's challenging, not just for me to stay alive, but like for everybody. You know, I was in and out of consciousness. In a way, I had it the easiest, but like those days, man, looking back on them, you know, it's funny because the memories come and go. You know, like one day I'll remember certain aspects of the 18th of July, and then certain days I'll remember the 17th, and certain days the 19th, and so on and so forth. I remember, though, the evening of the 19th, I was sitting there watching WWE SmackDown with my sister and my dad. My mom wasn't there, obviously, too, but one of the last things that I did before things got real, man. It was sat there and watched wrestling. The next day, I guess either the next day or the night of the 19th, I aspirated. Aspiration means, you know, something that is not air, gets into the lungs, it damages the lungs, and with having pneumonia already, it didn't do me any good. But the next day, things, like I hadn't gotten any positive result up until that point. The doctors hadn't, rather, but things were continuing to spread rapidly, which wasn't good, obviously. You don't want to be in the hospital for 4 days or whatever, and things are still spreading, and you're getting worse. And they said, we're gonna put you on a breathing tube. A breathing tube? I mean, not to be know-it-all or anything, but just about anybody who knows about anything about anything is going to know the breathing tube is a ventilator, And I'm thinking in that moment, like, what on earth, It was almost as if my brain knew in that moment that there was something, and maybe it was terminal lucidity again, I don't know. But something clicked, and it was almost like I was supposed to remember this for some reason. And I can remember it clear as day after that. The next 30 minutes or so, I'm kind of just sitting there thinking, like, to myself, there's a good chance I might not wake up from this. There's a good chance I might not wake up from this. I kind of thought to myself, I'm never going to get to see my sister get married, have kids, if that happens, God willingly. But I'm never going to get married myself, or, whatever I'm meant to do in this life is not going to happen. My story ends today. And it's a scary thought, man. It's a very dark place to be, to have 30 minutes until you're put under and put on a ventilator, man. The thoughts that go through your head is not something that I wish on my worst enemy, It's not. It's horrible. You rethink your whole life decisions, They say life recall is another thing that happens. And it's where 7 minutes of your life just play back. And it happens when you're getting close to death or when you're dying. And I'm telling you, it happens. It plays the good parts of your life, things that made you happy. And I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it. But I remember sitting there and, there's a look of terror on everybody who I saw, everybody who was there had the same look on their face, like they'd just seen a ghost and were petrified. Meanwhile, I'm doped up, so I really wasn't too petrified, but I was petrified, but it was in a different way. I kind of had an idea of what was going on, kind of didn't, But I remember sitting there and I prayed a Hail Mary, and then I told my family I loved them, and I remember this part clear as day. I don't think this will ever leave me. I believe it was I noticed the doctor. Well, maybe I don't remember it clear as day because I have to say I believe, but still you get the point. I remember it pretty well. I believe the doctor was walking in the room, or a nurse was, or something. And I looked at him and I said, let's get this show on the road. Who says that? Who says that? Dying, and you're like, let's get this show on the road. My sense of humor never left me. That's for darn certain. But and then it got worse after that. They put me on the ventilator and things got worse. I mean, how on earth can it get worse after you're put on a ventilator? That just doesn't seem right, does it? I guess I'm not a doctor. I couldn't tell you, but I know it doesn't seem right to get worse after you put it on the ventilator. You would think it would be vice versa before. But it did. I got worse. I was told by my family that even with the ventilator, my O2 was sitting at 53. 53 for over an hour. It just doesn't seem possible. I mean, medically, my brain shouldn't even be able to function this well after sitting at 53 for that long. I mean, apparently they were bagging me on a ventilator to get me to breathe properly. I mean, that's something insane, man. They told me, the respiratory therapist, God bless him, man, God bless him, who was bagging me was sweating so much because of how long he was bagging me, and how hard he was trying to. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't there. It's just what I've been told, and looking back on it and reflecting on it, it's crazy. From what I've been told, the first few days, I showed little to no sign of improvement. They had doctors come in and test, for these diseases and the random things that could maybe have caused this. Was it just a perfect storm? Infectious disease doctors. That's what it was. Came in and tested for things. Some infectious disease. Obviously, I mean, it was all these random things they came in and tested for. They told me that at one point it got to the point to where they thought, if things don't get better, they were discussing having a double lung transplant because of how bad the pneumonia was. Quite a few people don't, they don't come out the same with both of their lungs intact after pneumonia that bad. No one knew at that point. It was really uncertain if I was going to survive or how long I would remain in that condition on ECMO, on a ventilator. And if I did survive, what was my life going to be like? Was I going to have two new lungs, or was I going to lose a limb? Was I going to lose multiple limbs? I mean, I have every limb on my body. I have my original lungs that I've been born with. I mean, I have everything. I'm fully intact. That shouldn't. It's a miracle. I was told that one day, my doctor walked in and simply looked at the charts and just went, "Magnificent," or something along those lines. And I guess he'd been looking at the charts from home, but when he really looked at them, he realized that somehow I was getting better. I mean, obviously, I know how. I know how. I don't know about you, but I know how I got better. But he noticed I was improving, and that's when things I was getting better. His goal was to get me to the point to where I could be awake on ECMO and off the ventilator, but still on ECMO if necessary, or awake while I was on a ventilator and ECMO. I mean, based on how the ventilator felt, that would have been awful, but, hey, we could have made do with it. But because I was doing better, they didn't even need to get to that point to where it was either talked about long term, how long can I stay on this, or the double lung transplant. They just, it just kept getting better. Part of me likes to think, it was because of my stubbornness, but deep down inside, I know it was God that refused to let my sickness win. Then one day, they clamped the ECMO machine, turned down the flow on it, and I mean, it's probably they turned down the flow first and all that, and then clamped it. And somehow, after everything that happened, my body handled it. I don't know, man. I don't know why it did. I don't know how it did. I mean, I do. I know how it did, but medically, there's no explanation. You know, there's not a medical explanation for it. They've told me, but somehow my body handled it, and I don't know. For example, though, ELSO's databases show that the average time that someone spends on ECMO for some of the illnesses that I had, acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, pneumonia, septic shock, and multi-organ failure, as well as COVID or whatever else there was, is between 10 and 14 days. I was on ECMO and a ventilator for a week. 1 week. To say that it was a medical miracle is an understatement. It is a massive, massive understatement. I'm not going to lie and tell you that the next few days were easy. Because they were far from easy, to tell you the truth. I'll tell you that much. That they were far from easy. On top of kind of getting the hang of things again, I guess, and figuring out how to do things. Yeah, and I mean, I spent 7 days on a ventilator and not moving. You get a little stiff if it takes a little bit to get up and walk around and things. But on top of that, I had ICU delirium, man. Those meds wearing off was like nothing that I've ever experienced. So that was like one of the worst parts for me about the whole thing, was when the medicine finally came to the point to where it was wearing off. I was hallucinating. I couldn't sleep for 72 hours or something like that. And then just like that, I fell asleep one night and I slept like 15 hours straight. Didn't wake up, except for, when they needed to check my vitals and whatnot. I just slept. And I got up and it was like I was a new man. It was like nothing had ever happened. Obviously, I dropped 35 pounds and I was weak as could be, but I was conscious enough to where I knew what was going on. I felt good. I'm not gonna lie. I do remember. I like telling this story because it shows how much I can accomplish when I put my mind to it. I remember there was a social worker lady coming in talking about maybe having to go to a rehab or something to get up and help me do things again. And I wanted to go home. I knew I was going home one way or another. And, I wasn't really making an effort to do like physical therapy or anything at first. And then one day I just decided, I'm not going to rehab. I'm going home. I went with physical therapy, man, and I'll never forget this. He's like, will you just walk up and down the hallway and see how you're doing and whatnot? We got to the stairs and he looks at me and he's like, can you make it up the stairs? Yeah, I can make it up one flight of stairs. And then we got to the top of one flight of stairs. I made it up, no problem. And he goes, can you make it up another flight? I said, yeah, I can do that. Went up another flight, went back down, walked up and down the hallway again, and I came back to my room, and he goes, he's not able to go to rehab. I'm not able to go to rehab, he says. I did too much. I was unqualified to go. I remember that. Like, that made me extremely happy, because so now I was going to be able to go home after everything. I hadn't seen my sister in a week. Outside of this hospital setting, and that's not fun at all. But they came in and they told us, they said, well, after that he's not able to go to the rehab program. He's going home. not going to tell you that the following months and heck, the past 2 years for that have been easy, because they have been the hardest 2 years of my life, but it's been worth it. I am grateful for every single day that I have on this earth. Every breath I take, all the air in my lungs, I don't take a single thing for granted anymore. The good days, the bad days, I don't take a single thing for granted. I mess up, yeah, but, one thing's for certain. I know that even though it might not seem like it sometimes, there's a reason I'm here. That much is very clear to me now. And, I guess like Tim McGraw says, live like you were dying. My name's Logan, and I'm an ECMO survivor. And this is Life After ECMO. Hey everyone, it's Logan from Life After ECMO. I want to say thank you guys for taking time to watch the very first episode of Life After ECMO, and it truly does mean the world to me. Your support means the world to me. And I also wanted to give you a little update and let you know what is coming next for Life After ECMO. Our next episode premieres August 4th, and it is titled, What is ECMO? In that episode, we're going to be taking a little closer look into what ECMO is, how it works, the technology that has let ECMO become what it is, and the history behind this amazing life-saving technology. After that, we're going to jump into Life After ECMO, and we're going to share the stories of other survivors. I'm not going to publish a list or anything yet, that is, but there will be a time once I have this organized a little more that I will have a little bit of a list who's going to be on there, and I'll let you guys know. But I'm really looking forward to being a part of this and, directing this and having other people on here and sharing this with the ECMO community. This is something I've been wanting to do for 2 years now, and it truly is amazing that 2 years ago today I was put on the ECMO, and here I am 2 years later, a different person, but in a good way. Thank you again for watching, and thank you again for being part of this community. I will see you guys in the next one. Much love as always. Peace.